every Sunday, 7 to 8 p.m. only at INCRadio.
Ito ang INC Radio, DZEM 954, ang tinig ng katotohanan, himpilan ng Iglesia ni Cristo, sumasahimpapawid mula sa Quezon City.
That's the extent of my ability to speak in multiple languages. But before we do that, I want to jump onto our topic today, which is going to be the International Conference of CFO Leaders. It was held actually in the Philippines. And to talk about that, I'd like to welcome our guest this morning from not too far from me here in the congregation of Tampa as well, Sister Cass. Good morning, Sister Cass. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me on once again. My name is Sister Cassandra. I'm from the local congregation of Tampa, Florida, and I am the District Kadiwa president here in the District of Florida.
Fantastic. Well, then that means that you are the right person to be talking to about this very, very special activity that was held, and that is the International Conference of CFO Leaders. Why don't we just jump right in, because I have so many questions for you, because this, just seeing the photos and the pictures of this activity just made it seem like such a tremendous effort to try to put something like this together. And I know that you've been to a previous activity that was very similar to this a few years back. Can you tell us about that, a little bit about that activity?
The previous one or this one?
The previous one. Yeah, the one that you first attended.
Absolutely. So in 2023, I had the privilege and honor to participate in the Kadiwa Leadership International Conference, where it gathered Kadiwa leaders from throughout the world. And that took place over 4 days in the Philippines. And it was so much knowledge, so much team building, so much brotherhood. It was the perfect way to kick off the 50th anniversary for Kadiwa and Binhi that year.
And so that was actually held as a sort of an activity focused on just the Kadiwa organization, which, for those of us, if you're watching, the Kadiwa organization here in the Church of Christ is the youth organization for those that are 18 or older. Those are single brethren who are of 18 years old or older. And then, of course, we have the Binhi organization, which is another one of our youth organizations. And the Binhi organization are from 12 to 18, of course, also single. And then the other organization we have is something called the Buklod organization. The Buklod organization in the CFO, or Christian Family Organizations of the church, are those married members. And the church puts these organizations specifically in this order, so this way the brethren are within their own peer groups, and they're able to work with them, have fellowship with them, because they have obviously similar interests. They're at the same stages in life. And it's really important that that support be provided for them in order, for them to continue thriving on their specific missions. Like, for example, when we talk about the Kadiwa, since you're the Kadiwa district president, I think this is a fair question, Sister Cass, to ask you. What is the mission of the Kadiwa organization?
The mission of the Kadiwa organization is to ensure that our Kadiwa remain focused on, first of all, the doctrines of the church, putting God first, but also to live a Christian life, focus on our education or our livelihood, and prepare ourselves for the way of marriage.
Great. And of course, being overseeing the Kadiwa organization here in the district, there's also the Binhi organization, as we'd mentioned. And since we don't have a Binhi representative, can you tell a little bit about what their mission is in the Binhi organization for that group from 12 to 18 years old, or 12 to 17 years old?
You're putting me on the spot, Brother Robert. There's actually missions and visions for each CFO, so I don't know word for word the Binhi mission, but I would think that it would to be similar, to follow in a Christian life, to focus on education,
preserve that, help them to focus on their studies, and continue to grow and maintain the Christian values that are found here in the Church of Christ. But so the reason I wanted to kind of set the stage and talk about all of the different organizations is because unlike the one that you mentioned, to attend 2023, this activity that we're talking about, the International Conference, really combined all three organizations, right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, no, I think we're getting a little bit of feedback there. Sorry. Let me see if I can adjust this here. I don't know where this is coming from. Let me see. So this particular conference was focused on all three organizations, is what I was saying. Is that right, Cass?
Plus the CWS for those who oversee the children worship service, like first offered.
Oh. I think we're getting a little bit of echo from your. I don't know if it's coming from ours. Are you hearing the echo through the speakers, Sister Cass?
I am.
It's really strange. Let me see if we can try to maybe see if you can mute your mic for just a moment. Let me see. Well, hopefully, yeah, that's reducing some of the feedback. So hopefully, if you can.
I am. I've been a CWS teacher for 14.
Those teachers making an impact and children remembering them years later, that my math teacher in my third grade or my English teacher in sixth grade really had this impact. But to be able to say that about children, especially at that young age, 4 and above, in the children's worship service, that's really got to be a good feeling for anyone who's a teacher to know that not only did they remember and recognize what you were teaching, but more importantly, that they remembered you. So certainly a testament to the impact that you're making on the youth. So let's jump into the conference. So let's talk a little bit about like the logistics, like how long was the conference? What really was its mission when this was held? And what were the dates? Because I know that this was actually a little over a month ago, right?
It was. So it was spanned over 3 days, and it might have been June 24 to 27 or June.
We'll say it with confidence. So we'll say it was the 24th to the 27th.
I don't think it was actually. It was like maybe June 8th and the 20th. It was a blur. Because of
All
the
the
time difference, the jet lag. I just know I had to be there by a certain day. So June 20 to 22nd was the actual conference date.
Great, great. So tell us a little bit about what really the objective was when you first heard about it. Like, how was the conference being um, portrayed or marketed, if you will?
It wasn't marketed as much as you might think it would have. They just said this, there's going to be a CFO leadership conference on these dates. And knowing what happened in 2023, that's all it took to sell me and be like, I'm registering. I'm going to be there. So that was before knowing exactly what was going to what was going to happen over those days. But it was, the mission of it was to gather all of the CFO leaders, in which there's going to be another one down the line, and coming up, that's going to be for societies. But for the CFO leaders, it was to bring us together so that we can learn more from a biblical and from a Christian way of how to be better leaders, so that we can properly take care of the brethren under our care.
And when obviously this, we're 2025 during that period of 2020 through 2022-ish, when there was COVID, and all of a sudden everything just kind of turned into remote activities, right? Because we weren't able to physically get together with each other. To be able to do this now and be there in person with your fellow Kadila, your fellow CFO leaders, and meet them face to face and kind of have real conversations outside of a phone screen or a computer screen. How what is that feeling like now compared to maybe before, because I'm sure you attended activities like this before the pandemic, right? Are you noticing that there's much more enthusiasm now since we had that period of time where we weren't able to do it?
So you might see my eyes starting to glaze over, because I feel like I'm gonna cry. But to answer one of your questions, the feeling is you can't do anything but thank God. Thank God for opportunities like this. When we had the period where everything was remote and you couldn't really, um, it feels different. And so when everything is opened up and you're able to be with one another, and it's not just the feeling of being present with another person, it's also, that shared space where you're able to.
run into from other countries?
So Hong Kong, Australia, Canada, Kuwait, Japan. That's off the top of my head. Now I'm gonna start getting slower.
Oh,
They were
that's okay. This is,
they were all over.
that's amazing. And will you're also able to learn and share and talk about different cultures, right? In your respective places, and a gathering like this is obviously something to a huge effort, because you're talking about travel and accommodations and everything else, which is always a challenge when you have that many people in attendance. And I think, and I asked you this before the show, uh, obviously compared to the 2023 Kadiwa activity, what were some of the comparison or contrasts or comparisons you could make between that one and this one?
So I did not want to go there with a comparison because I did not want to thieve myself of the enjoyment I would get from this conference.
Okay.
Um, but there's definitely differences that you can see, taking a step back after having gone through it and being able to, address both sides. In 2023, it was solely for the Kadiwa organization. And that was something that was so unique to me and in my experience. And it really made all of us super close. And I cherish that conference with my whole heart, with everyone that I have met and I still talk to on a very regular basis. And then this conference, it was unique in that you're not just learning from your peers, you're learning from the Buklod as well. The Binhi are coming up to you and they're saying you're very inspirational, or I want to keep in contact with you, or can I have your social, right? Like it's very different. The CWS organization, those are full of teachers. And they come from, Kadiwa and Booklet organizations. So you're learning from so many different organizations and different leaders. And I also really enjoyed the timeline of how we had this conference because it started with a worship service and it ended with a special lecture. And to me, there was, you know, I was talking with the organizers and I said, you planned this perfectly.
Oh, that's well, and obviously there's a lot of effort put into making this truly impactful for those that are coming. I mean, so many of you guys traveled a tremendous distance to be there, and I think that really made it a mission for those organizing this to make this as worthwhile and beneficial as possible. And when you look at the different activities, because you did have such a mix, what were some of the topics that were covered, or things that you learned, and maybe if you heard from maybe the Bookwood sessions, what were some of the topics or subjects that were covered with them?
So when we had our all together seminars that we learned from various ministers, one of them was how we as leaders, because each CFO has a hand in recruiting the next generation of batchmates for SFM or the School for Ministry, right? As
Mhm.
CWS teachers, you are instilling in the children the teaching so that they would be inspired to one day become a teacher. I mean, a minister. And then for the Binhi, you're raising them up, encouraging them, study hard. This could be your path in the future, becoming a minister. From the Kadiwa, this is where we are getting our SFM students from, right? You're 18, you completed your education. Now you are in the right time to join the ministry. And then for the Buklod, you're encouraging your children to consider becoming a minister of the gospel to help and assist the church administration. That was one of the seminars, and that actually stuck out to me a lot. We also had a mental health seminar because, as leaders, we're not immune to the stresses that come with our regular everyday life. And then, we have our church duties and the responsibilities of leading our organization. So being aware of mental health was also a seminar that we had, and it was very important as well.
So, in the way that they structured this, obviously, is they broke it up into the specific organizations based on CFO, and that way they could be with their peers and learn. And I know that you had a few. Um, this, all right, great. And it appears that when they put these together, like let's talk a little bit about some of the photos here. There were obviously sessions that were. Let me see. They're still saying that my mic might be muted. So hopefully, if you're in the chat watching us, you can't hear us. Please put in the chat and let us know if you're not able to hear us. But the photos that we have here specifically, what were some of these photos here that you can maybe walk us through the activities?
Okay, so I'm gonna go from top left and then I'm gonna go clockwise. So the first one is, when we first arrived. Those are so Kuya Darwin, he was actually one in my area back in Connecticut years ago when I was young than he maybe. So him being Buklod and I'm Kadiwa, and it was a nice reunion. And able to show him, you know, I listened to you when I was younger. Look where I am now, right? There's also Sister Hannah in that picture who was in 2023 Click Kadiwa Leadership Conference with me. So that was nice. The next picture is at one of the breakouts where it was specifically for Kadiwa. We had lunch, we had table games, and we had a program where we're learning more seminars as well. That's Sister Claros from Davao City. She was my first friend off of the airplane, and I talk to her regularly still. And but like, that's a great friend that was formed. The next picture is the closing celebration dinner. There was an INT production company program. That is Sister Marielle right there, who is a very big face in the INCPC world. Also a friend of mine from childhood. So it was great to take a picture with her. The next one is after one of our seminars. We had a rose garden walkthrough, and I posed with Batman as a tribute to my District Kadiwa officers here in Florida who call me Batman. Then the next picture is just a group photo. I don't even remember which day that one was. The next picture was just me posted in front of the banner, and then the last picture was my roommate Gwendolyn and I. She's from Hawaii Pacific, and we both won a golden ticket, but for different reasons. She earned hers. I just spoke like I do all the time. I speak a lot, so that's how I won mine. She won hers by actually singing and doing a great job at that.
That's fantastic. And so when we look at the photos, and we have another set of photos here, just one more set before we start to wrap up here. So what about these activities here? One of these looks like you're already being interviewed before I even got to you, right?
So the top left photo is just a group oh no, that's actually Hannah and I with the group Faith Stars, which is a popular NCPC group that also sings and dances. And so there are a bunch of Binhi and Kadiwa young girls, and they're great. The next picture is also our photo for our background for the today's program. And that's just Kadiwa. We were just outside taking pictures, and then next thing you know, a couple more joined, and then a couple more, and then all of a sudden, all of the Kadiwa are out there taking pictures with us. So the last picture is day one. They interviewed a leader from each CFO organization, and I was randomly chosen. Not randomly, I was chosen to speak, and it was to discuss the different obstacles we face as leaders and how it is that we are able to persevere even though we face a lot of different challenges. And this was unique because they interviewed one person from each CFO, and it was different challenges. Like the brother on stage with me, he's from Canada, and his challenges are, the snowstorms that they face and how you're able to still perform your duties despite kind of being out of commission.
Right. Well, and when you look at the way that they put this together, because you do have such a large number of different leaders from around the globe that have gathered together, that I'm sure that being able to share these stories with them helps them to feel that whatever problems they're dealing with, they're not facing them alone. That they're not the only ones that have those problems, right? And I think that's one of the biggest sort of takeaways for many of them is that, wow, the same problems that sister has in her district is the same problem that I have. And now let's get together and kind of come up with some solutions for them, because that's one of the biggest struggles is, and you even mentioned it earlier in the show about the focus on mental health and building resilience amongst the leaders within the CFO, that feeling and that realization that you're not alone
Mhm.
in the same situations, I think helps a lot. Well, Sister Cassandra, as we like to often say, we are the fastest 30 minutes on radio because we're now at just about the top of the hour. But really want to thank you for joining us today. I want to just take a quick second and offer up some shout outs for those that took the time to join us today. We have, of course, this morning, Sister. First one, always in the chat, is Sister Melka Newcomb, the wife of our beloved district minister here, Brother Lowell Newcomb. We also have Thelma Sangrones. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but thank you for the shout out. And Brother Adrian, one of our favorite guests, loves to join us, or favorite fans from there in South Las Vegas, all the way on the West Coast. Mario Okoa from the Philippines is here. Sister Cynthia Catley, Michelle LF, who's watching us from Spain. So, hola, buenos dias. I think it's in the morning over there. And then also to Omar Kusin, who's coming to us from East Jacks, Christina Lozon, Dulce Gallion. That sounds like a very familiar name, Sister
My
Cassandra.
mom.
Yeah. Sister, of course, our number one fan here in the District of Florida, along with Sister Malka, Sister Teresa Murph. Thank you guys for joining us from Kissimmee. We'd also like to, of course, thank our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo Vimanalo, who just constantly and unceasingly always supports so many of our projects, to our Deputy Executive Minister, Brother Angelo Irania Manalo, as well, and also to our station manager, Brother Wally Taray, and to our executive producer, Brother Manley Andaya. And Sister Cass, do you have any shout outs that you'd like to give before we wrap up today?
Shout out to our district minister. Shout out to the District of Florida. Thank you so much, both to the church administration, for these experiences and allowing me to speak about them.
Fantastic. Well, as always, it's a pleasure having you here today. And we want to thank you once again to all of our viewers. But please stay tuned, because coming up next is going to be INCRadio Washington, D.C. We'll see you next week here on INCRadio Florida.
Your Spotify playlist just got more exciting and inspiring because the INC Original Music is now on Spotify. Search up INC Original Music and discover songs about our faith and love, songs for